Zinc is number 30 in the periodic table. Zinc is placed in group 12 in the fourth period. The atomic number 30 means that zinc has 30 protons in the nucleus and in total 30 electrons in the shells. The group number lets us know that zinc has 2 electrons in the outer shell, and the period number lets us know that zinc has a total of 4 shells. The symbol of zinc is Zn, and the atomic mass is 65.38 units. Zinc is placed in the D block of the periodic table, also called the transition metals. These metals are solid at room temperature, all except mercury. The properties of these metals are that they're very malleable, which means that they're very easy to press, pull, or form into a new shape. They're very workable. And the metals are really good conductors of heat and electricity. The atomic structure of zinc will look like this. Zinc has 30 protons in the nucleus, and the number of neutrons will be depending on the different isotopes. And as I mentioned before, zinc has 4 shells. The first shell has 2 electrons, the second shell has 8 electrons, the third has 18 electrons, and the fourth and outer shell has 2 electrons. Therefore, the atomic iron of zinc will be Zinc 2+. Zinc is a metal, and all metals will form positive ions by donating electrons instead of receiving them. Zinc has 2 electrons in the outer shell and would really like to get rid of them. So when donating the electrons, zinc will then have more protons than electrons, and because protons are positive and electrons are negative, the charge will therefore be positive. Zinc is solid in room temperature. It's a bluish-white, lustrous metallic element and is relatively soft. Zinc is not abundant in nature. At room temperature, zinc is malleable or ductile, but when heating it, it does become malleable and ductile. Zinc is a fairly reactive metal that will combine with oxygen and other nonmetals. When burning zinc, zinc will react with oxygen and produce zinc oxide, which is solid. Zinc will react with dilute acids to release hydrogen. Zinc does not react with water. There is numerous compounds of zinc, including zinc oxide and zinc chloride. Naturally occurring zinc is composed of 5 stable isotopes: zinc 64, zinc 66, zinc 67, zinc 68, and zinc 70. Zinc 64 is the most abundant isotope and has 34 neutrons and an abundance of 94.2%. Zinc 66 is the second most abundant and has an abundance of 27.7% and has 36 neutrons. The third most abundant is zinc 68 with an abundance of 18.5%. Zinc 68 consists of 38 neutrons. When it comes to biology, zinc is very useful and needed because zinc is the 10th most common element present in the human body. Zinc is stored in the white and red blood cells, the bones, kidneys, and liver. Zinc is needed for the body enzymes and immune system to function properly. Zinc can also help prevent Alzheimer's disease. Zinc also helps muscle growth and repairment. Zinc plays a major role in cell division and growth. Zinc also helps fight diabetes. Zinc improves liver health. Studies have shown that if you eat food with a high level of zinc, it will reduce the chances of infection and reduce the level of liver damage. Zinc is needed, but only in small quantities. You don't want too much of it. Zinc is used in lots of vitamin pills. It's also important for taste, smell, and heal wounds. Zinc occurs in many foods such as green peas, beans, mushrooms, spinach, sea vegetables, pumpkin seeds, oysters, organic grass-fed beef, and dairy and organic liver. Zinc is used in many alloys, which is a kind of metal that consists of more than one element. One alloy zinc is known for is brass. Brass consists of zinc and copper. Zinc is the fourth most used metal in the world. Zinc bonds well with other metals. About 1/2 of the zinc that is produced is used in the process of adding thin layers of zinc to iron or steel to prevent rusting. The next leading use of zinc is for the alloy brass. One experiment with zinc could be zinc in hydrochloric acid. The method is quite simple. You have hydrochloric acid in a test tube, which you add zinc in a solid form. You can see all these bubbles. And what's happening is that zinc is dissolving and together with chlorine creating zinc chloride. What you couldn't see in the test tube is what was happening to the hydrogen. And what happens when you add zinc to hydrochloric acid is that it's releasing hydrogen in its gaseous form, which is hydrogen gas. Hydrogen gas is explosive, so what happens when you put a flame to hydrogen gas is that it will explode. In the chemical equation to the experiment, you can see that zinc plus hydrochloric acid will be zinc chloride plus hydrogen gas. Because zinc has a charge of 2+ and chlorine has a charge of 1-, you will need 2 chlorine to even the charge, and that's why it's ZnCl2.